चीनी ऑफर की जवाना ने बोल दिया हमें चाहिए ये और हलाल सा डालो चन क्यों अरे कभी हालत था वो जमाना में हम लोग फिर इंडिया के पास आया था सबने वो किया चाइना ने बनाया नहीं पता भाई अगर ये इतना डाउनलोड बोल रहे हो क्या लगता होगा ठीक है दिखाया है डाउनलोड इसलिए बोल रहा था डाउनलोड को वो आई बिंदास नहीं जस्ट तो पहले कंफ्यूज थी एनिमी नीड टू कंफ्यूज योरसेल्फ मतलब खुद ही कंफ्यूज है सो आई कंफ्यूज the enemy also I am confused we are not confused it does show it does not show all of us take this yes and guys what you do let us know कुछ भी मत वाले सुरा देखा कुछ भी घटके भी वो क्या कर दिया न्यू कुछ भी कर दिया हां आधा और इंसान ने सुअर का बच्चा क्रॉस ब्रीड सुअर हंसी आई कि ठीक है अबे स्नोबॉल कैसे वीडियो वापस कर दो तू पालेगा पालेगा नहीं हमसे चलाया पालेगा मतलब पालेगा हो तो पाली चाहे बाहर में कितना भी पालेगा वो बहुत है वो बस स्नोबॉल भाई क्रेजी यार क्रेजी पता ही हम 10:30 बजे से समझ लेते हैं मैं घंटा हो गया अरे पूरा कंप्लीट करना होता है टाइम रो क्या होता है देखो ना कंप्लीट मेरी बात सुनो ये लोग आए हैं लेक्चर के लिए चला रहा हूं मैं और लास्ट क्वेश्चन इसका सिंपल से मतलब दिखाने वाला था तो हेलो क्या बाय भाई ऐसे बोलना चाहिए देखो का ये ऐसा ही आ जाता है कोई ना बेटा बोला ये सिंपल अभी भाई सामने को तुम सुबह से बैठो तो मेरी नाम नहीं अब तो कर देंगे जो वीडियो हार तेरा अगर उसको लेकर ही आ रहा है करते भाई मैं क्या बोल रहा हूं सब नहीं मैंने आधी बार नहीं सीखा था मैं लास्ट को बनाया भेज ठीक है मेरा बनाया इधर फुल से ड्रॉप है अभी हमारे पास दो प्रिंसिपल सर का है और किधर से लाया प्रिंसिपल सर का चाहिए हां दे मेरे पास भी है नोट से प्रैक्टिस विनोद करना हां विनोद करना आप बंदा बना जो दास भाई विनोद दास हमारे सर मारता है बॉस नो काटता है बॉस डांस और डू हाउस विनोद दास ये लाइन हो गया वो आज साफ कर रही है तो हर बार ये करता है भाई तू अभी साफ नहीं अभी ऑफर नहीं होगा तो मेरे पास ऑफर नहीं होगा क्या नहीं वेट नहीं उससे बना अगर जिस पिक्चर भेजी तो हम सेम भूल कर दे भाई पता नहीं ना विभ्राट ये करना अरे ये स्टिकर भेज दो ये नहीं करना देखो तो करना देखो मेरा फोटो भी नहीं देख अगर तू देख के नाम से कर दो मेरा आज पे दिखाना है हां आज दिखाना है ये चल जाएगा तेरी पिक्चर तू मेरा को हां देखो मैं इसमें छुट्टी पर तो उसको स्टेप करना नहीं है क्या करना अबे तू एक दिन चल रहा है नाइस कमिंग इन आदित्य को एक्सेस कर रहा था हां 9 8 7 6 5 4 3 2 1 मैंने कर दिया -4 -2 वो इज दैट हम एफ को और को लाग कर रहा है येलो भी हो रहा है लाग कर और अभी मैंने ध्यान दो अभी भी एडिट करके भेज दिया ओके ये ले यार आगे उतनी है कि है the class is making a lot of noise because I too tired you want to hype up for balance तो बुक निकाल के चार चीज पढ़ नहीं सकते थे क्या The belly Ma'am, I have been studying so much in the break. You covered the entire board, ma'am. Specimen. Yes. No, we covered the entire board with our writings. And Sharad Bhaiya had to
erase.
That
That you can do very well. That I'm very sure. But वो अपना आंसर स्क्रिप्ट भरोगे तो ही जाके कुछ तो होगा. Ansh, are you awake today? इधर आ जाओ. And where is the other gold crest?
sleeping.
Sleeping.
Maybe you will come if you want.
We are honored. Now listen. After this chapter is over, we are discussing what? Circulatory system. After this chapter is over, I think, please remind me every day. I will give you 10 questions. Mixed. And as it is, you all have got exams also from this chapter, from those portions. Today also, because today is a 3 hours lecture, right?
Yes.
So 3 hours में से 15 minute तो निकलना ही चाहिए. Come, Mr. Ranj, come here and sleep. Okay, yesterday we learned the structure of the heart. Many more things left. Let us start with this topic. The section of the heart that we had discussed was now. We were talking about the basic, the first part of the chapter. Please keep reading so that you are able to answer questions correct. Talking about the structure of the heart that we were discussing yesterday. The section of the heart, what are some of the valves, the chambers, the concepts that we had come across? The first one, tell me one function of the pericardial fluid. One function, one by one. One function of the pericardial fluid. What did we learn yesterday? One function of pericardial fluid. Next.
It acts like a cushion, it absorbs shock and it prevents
Mechanical. Next. The chamber which receives oxygenated blood. Wait. The heart chamber which receives oxygenated blood. Which chamber, diagram dekho, which chamber we had studied, which chamber receives oxygenated blood. Next. Next. Aditya, that side, which chamber receives oxygenated blood, which chamber of the heart? Left auricle. Justify.
The oxygenated blood flows from pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery to the outside, and it comes back from the lungs and it enters into the.
With the help of which vessel? With the help of which vessel it enters? Huh? With the help of pulmonary vein. One major difference between the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves. One major difference between tricuspid and bicuspid. Functional. Structural we haven't learned. There's nothing in the syllabus about structure. Functional difference, tricuspid and bicuspid. These are common questions in the paper. Functional difference क्या लिखना है? Tricuspid prevents. कहाँ से कहाँ backflow it is preventing?
Tricuspid prevents the backflow from the right ventricle to the right atrium, and bicuspid prevents backflow from the left ventricle to the left atrium.
When are the lub sounds heard?
Ma'am, I doubt from the previous
question. What is it?
Ma'am, structural is given, right? 3 cuspid.
Only that. Only one. Other than that, you don't have. Most structural difference nahi aata hai paper mein. You are always asked functional difference only.
Just one line was given 3 cusps.
Pockets. So semilunar also 3 cusps. So wo cusp se bahut kam aata hai. Functional is something that always. What I asked you, क्या पूछा था मैंने?
When love sound.
हाँ, when is the love sound heard?
When tricuspid and bicuspid wall close with the jerk.
Close with a jaw. So tricuspid and bicuspid को commonly क्या बोलेंगे? That is also known as the atrioventricular valves. Name the two semilunar valves. Those semilunar valves, which are the ones? नाम क्या है? नाम क्या है? Aortic semilunar. Where is it? Aortic semilunar. Where is it?
Left atrium and left ventricle and aorta.
Left ventricle and aorta. Pulmonary semilunar. Where is it?
Right ventricle and pulmonary artery.
So preferably try writing at the base of the pulmonary artery, at the base of the aorta. What are papillary muscles?
Papillary muscles, the hill-like projections on the walls of the
Elevated
the
projections.
elevated projections on the walls of the heart are known as
Walls of the heart,
on the wall of the heart.
basically in the ventricles.
Ventricles.
In the
It's known as
ventricles.
papillary.
Papillary muscles.
They're connected to caudate.
What are caudate tendini, Ansh? What are caudate tendini? What is the function of the caudate tendini?
Ma'am, the apices of the flaps are held in position by tendinous flaps.
Did you understand what you are saying? What is it? Look into this diagram and tell me where is caudate tendon. Is it marked in this figure?
Yes, ma'am. That one.
कहाँ पे ये?
Ma'am, on the right hand side of the labels,
हाँ.
above the papillary muscles. Above
This
the papillary
is
muscles in the right.
The caudate tendon. What is the function of the caudate tendon?
Ma'am, it is marked there.
What is the caudate? Caudate tendon is all over. All these papillary muscles will link with the tricuspid, bicuspid here also. What is the function of the caudate tendon? We have understood. It helps in the regulating of the opening and closure of the valves, so that the blood can move in a unidirectional manner. Now next is, since we are talking about the different type of vessels and the valves, aorta and vena cava. Can you tell me a difference based on the nature of the blood that they carry?
The nature of blood that they carry. Okay, the aorta carries oxygenated blood from the heart to all the parts of the body, and the vena cava carries blood from all of the deoxygenated blood from all the parts of the body to the heart.
Major difference between pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. What was it? Pulmonary artery, direction of blood flow.
From the heart to the
Right? Pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein, direction of blood flow differentiate based on that.
veins from body parts to the
Pulmonary artery from where to where?
heart to the body parts.
No. Pulmonary artery from the right ventricle to the lungs. Pulmonary vein from the lungs to the left auricle. Direction of the blood flow, valves, parts, functions, you have to be very specific. Next is, we were talking about the concept of arterioles. Arterioles and venules. Yesterday I had been talking about all these words, blood vessels. So arterioles and venules, what is the difference?
Arterioles are the branch part of arteries.
Arteries.
And they mostly carry
Oxygenated blood.
Venules
And
are
venules are?
the branch part of veins, and they mostly carry deoxygenated.
So branch parts, not to write this way. Arterioles. What are arterioles? Arterioles are finer vessels formed by the division of an artery. What are venules? Venules are formed by the union of capillaries near the tissue. So it is venules which will join together to form the vein. Do you remember that flowchart yesterday?
Yes,
I had
yes,
written
ma'am.
with the blood vessels. First is artery. I want to move from the heart towards the body parts. Tell me what are the vessels? Aorta. Next.
Arteries.
Arteries. Next. Arterioles. Next.
Capillaries.
Capillaries. So this capillary now is carrying
Oxygenated.
oxygenated blood, and now we have the tissue. From the tissue again come the capillaries. Next, now this capillary carries deoxygenated. Next is venules, then veins, and then vena cava, and then we go back to the heart again. Which chamber of the heart is always receiving the deoxygenated blood? Which chamber of the heart is receiving the deoxygenated blood always? Nine. Deoxygenated, right? By the way of the vena cava, superior, inferior. What are the other names for superior, inferior?
Posterior and
This is pre and this is
Precable
post.
and post.
Precable, superior, postcable, inferior. Now that we'll have to understand the entire flow chart for the concept of double circulation. Why is it known as double circulation? Yesterday I mentioned also. Blood is entering, the deoxygenated blood is entering here. You'll have to remember all the valves and all these features now. The blood from here moving down. When the blood is entering from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, the right ventricle is under the diastole or systole. When the blood is entering from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, the right ventricle is under diastole or systole. Systole. Contraction. Blood is here. Go to the right and the left lungs. From the lungs, come back in the oxygenated form. How many pulmonary branches are there? How many branches for the pulmonary artery? 2 branches, one towards the left, one towards the right. How many pulmonary veins enter the left auricle? 4 pulmonary veins. From the right side 2, from the left side 2. Ultimately 4 pulmonary veins enter the left auricle. And it is the only chamber which will be receiving the oxygenated blood. Now the blood from here. So now once the blood entered and it left, one phase of circulation is over. This phase of circulation where the blood was circulating between the heart and the lungs and coming back, this is known as pulmonary circulation. Now the blood is back again into the heart. Go back down to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle by the way of the aorta, go to the body parts, and from the body parts again by the way of the vena cava enter. So from the heart to the body parts by the aorta and again enter into the right auricle, that is systemic circulation. So what are the 2 phases? Pulmonary, when the circulation is happening between the heart and the lungs and back, pulmonary. And when the circulation is happening between the heart and the body tissues and back again, this is systemic. So what is this? Systemic and pulmonary circulation. These are the phases of the double circulation. So now I want all of you, take out your notebook. I'm going to give you a complete flow chart of the entire concept of double circulation and the divisions of double circulation to form the pulmonary and systemic. So please write it down in your notebook in a horizontal way better. So write, and you should be able to write ahead of me also now. Let us start with the heart. We start with the heart now. And this heart will now contain the 4 chambers. The significance of the 4 chambers already understood. What are the significance of the 4 chambers? You already know now. So let us go ahead. The heart which is carrying the blood being brought out by the heart, by the aorta, the largest artery of the body. Aorta divides to form a large number of arteries. The arteries will divide. So now when we are talking about the arteries, I talk about the aorta. Then from the aorta, the arteries. From the arteries, it will go to the capillaries. Acha, 1 minute, 1 minute. Let me just start the other way. One minute. Let me take it this way. So this way also you can write, or you can write it this way also, not a problem. The same thing that I had written, let us continue this way also, not a problem. Arteries. These arteries will divide to form capillaries. It's okay. Capillaries. Capillaries will be supplying blood to the body parts. From the body parts, now that the vessels come out carrying deoxygenated blood, the capillaries, these capillaries will unite, form veins. We are cutting down the arterioles and the venules now. These veins will unite, form the vena cava. Wait, I'm just making a mistake. Wait. Double circulation. Just you're writing with pen or pencil?
Pen.
तो कोई बात नहीं. Life in a different page. So we'll start with the body. So from the body parts, let us say, it's easier that way for you. Otherwise, it's becoming too lengthy. The body parts and the heart we take.
It's the same thing.
No, I want to give you the simplest concept of the.
I'm actually going for double circulation.
Achha, for double circulation only, we'll take not all of it, only the chambers we'll take. Okay. Achha. From the heart, take the right side. The right side from the heart, what it is? Pulmonary artery. That other flow chart is for all the blood vessels that I don't want to give you now. No need of that. Take this one, the pulmonary artery. Take the pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery, the deoxygenated blood. This pulmonary artery will carry the blood. Which vessel, which valve is involved here? The pulmonary semilunar. From the heart, the pulmonary artery. From the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary semilunar valves. By the way of the pulmonary semilunar valves, by the way of the pulmonary artery, the blood will enter into the lungs. What is the process? Oxygenation. From the lungs, the pulmonary veins. From the lungs, the pulmonary veins, and this blood is oxygenated now. This blood is oxygenated. So this pulmonary veins, where will the pulmonary vein drop the blood? The pulmonary vein will drop the blood into the left auricle. From the left auricle, the blood enters into the left ventricle. What is the valve here? Bicuspid. What is the other word for the bicuspid valves? Mitral valves. From the left ventricle, now the blood enters into aorta. The blood enters into the aorta. What is the valve involved here? The aortic semilunar valves.
Why did you call it semilunar?
Because of its structure. Semilunar, when we are talking about, the valves are in the shape of a half moon. crescent shaped.
ना pulmonary vein और left और इनके बीच में wall से होती होगी तो उसका नाम है pulmonary
Semilunar है. So pulmonary vein and left auricle. These are all semilunar valves. Then aortic, from the aorta, the concept that I had written earlier. Now we'll try to place in it. Arteries. Arteries divide to form capillaries. Capillaries will supply the blood to the body parts. And then the blood from the body parts will be carried by capillaries again, which is deoxygenated. From the capillaries,
Pulmonary vein does not have any vein. Does not have any.
Capillaries?
Wall.
Capillaries.
Wall. Pulmonary vein.
What is it? I did not understand.
The pulmonary vein does not have any wall.
Pulmonary veins, no, they have valves. When we are talking about the structurally, they are same. Structurally, they are like a vein.
So
why it is an artery? Majorly because of the nature of the blood that it is carrying.
We carry oxygenated blood. But
Blood structurally, they have got. The lumen is comparatively bigger than a. It is a vein. Structurally, it is almost like a vein. Structurally, it is a vein, but functionally, it is an artery. The pulmonary veins that we talk about. So the body parts, capillaries. From the capillaries, we talk about the veins. The veins will join to form the vena cava. What are the two vena cava? The superior and the inferior. The superior and the inferior. And then from the vena cava, the blood will enter into the right atrium. And now that we are talking about the heart back again. Now, when we look into that, the chambers of the heart, since we are talking about the right auricle, so this is the heart back again. And from the heart, first of all, which chamber again to understand? The right ventricle again can be included here. The right ventricle. This entire process of circulation of the blood with all the veins and the chambers and the vessels, that is what is known as double circulation. What is this entire concept? Double circulation. But if I have to talk about the blood moving out from the right ventricle and getting its entry again, when we talk about from the right ventricle going to the lungs and again entering into the left ventricle, from here till here, this part is pulmonary circulation. Try looking into this flow chart. This entire schematic presentation represents how does the blood flow in our body, right? Starting from the heart, the deoxygenated blood moving out and then becoming oxygenated. Where is the blood becoming oxygenated? At the lungs. And where is it becoming deoxygenated? Again at the body parts. So that is the entire method. What are the two phases? The two phases are pulmonary and systemic. So pulmonary from where to where? I mark pulmonary from right ventricle going to the lungs and then entering back into the left ventricle, meaning the pulmonary circulation will be this part.
After right ventricle, pulmonary semilunar valves will come first, right?
Pulmonary artery, and here at the base is the pulmonary semilunar valves. So you can write pulmonary semilunar valves here also. On the arrow you are supposed to write. If you don't write here also, same thing. You are writing the pulmonary semilunar valves here. It is here between the lungs and at this side. So not a problem. You'll have to write the pulmonary semilunar location here. What is this phase of circulation known as? This is known as pulmonary circulation. The phase of pulmonary circulation. Now that the blood has entered the left ventricle, all these to the body, Back from the body, back again to the heart. But which side? Now we are talking about entering the right side again. So now, this entire phase, this is phase 1. This is phase 2. What is this phase to be named as? This is known as systemic circulation. Few more things to understand when we are talking about double circulation. I have given you one flow chart which talks about all the blood vessels and their relation. And this is another flow chart which talks about the entire process pathway of the blood. Now that should always give you a clear picture from way to way, the blood flow, which valves one after the other. Okay, now these are the prominent things that you had studied in your portion. Let us now talk about certain things more that we came across was when the blood is moving. Let me just take one by one. When the blood is moving from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, blood is moving from the right ventricle to pulmonary artery. Just now I mentioned there are phases known as ventricular contraction followed by auricular relaxation. So that you'll have to remember. But how does this force of contraction and relaxation initiate? The force of contraction and relaxation initiates when we have to understand the force of relaxation and initiates at this region of the heart. What is it? At this region of the heart, on the walls of the heart, there is a specialized group of cardiac muscles, and that is known as SAN. What is the full form? Sinoatrial or auricular node. What is it? What is the function SAN? Abbreviation also you are asked in the exam. Where is SAN located? On the walls of the right atrium. What is SAN? Full form is what? Sinoatrial node. What is its function? It initiates the process of contraction of the heart wall. And that's the reason it is known as a natural pacemaker. What is the job of SAN? The job of SAN, where is it located? On the wall of the right auricle. And this is from here where something like ripples in a pond, when we see right from there, the electrical impulses start, originate and spread all over the heart. When we are talking about the contraction, this is generally regulated. This is an involuntary function regulated by the medulla. So when we are talking about the contraction of the heart, the filling up of the blood is a stimulus every time, and the medulla, the nervous impulse. So function of SAN, what is the function of SAN? Initiate the process of contraction of the heart wall. From which chamber does the contraction start? Right auricle. And then it will spread up on the chambers, upper chambers. Which are the upper chambers? The right and the left auricle. But the ventricles also need to contract. So now these nervous impulses which are generated here passes on to another node which is almost at the junction of the ventricles. Let me show you one more figure. Almost at the junction of, one more at the junction of the ventricles, and that is known as the AV node. That is known as the AV node. Let me see if I have a figure there. So when we are talking about the AV node, what is the AV node? AV node is a specialized type of a nervous tissue which is now present at the junction of the ventricle. I think you have a figure there in your book also. Please check that. The atrioventricular node of the heart. Where is the atrioventricular node of the heart? Now looking into the structure of the heart there. Looking into the structure of the heart there. Look into a figure something this way. I was talking about this right now, the SAN. A set of cardiac muscles which start working under the impulse, nervous impulse, and it starts the process of contraction. But this SAN has got nerve endings all over the upper part of the upper chambers of the heart. Now the right and the left both starts contracting, but immediately what will happen? The nervous impulses will also be shifted to another small region almost at the upper region of the ventricle. What is this entire muscular wall known as septum? which is dividing both the ventricles. So almost at the node of the auriculoventricular region, there is a small node here, and that is what is known as the AV node. So now talking
Does
about
it
this,
pierce through the septum or goes around it?
that is
Does the system
over it,
pierce?
over the surface, over the surface. So this is better. This is clear. So this is the SA node. The fibers will spread over. The auricular contraction happens, and immediately the ventricle also will contract. But how will the ventricles contract? Because the messages, the nervous impulses has to spread on the ventricular septum also. What is this particular region known as the AV node? The AV node. And this AV node again has got some cords of nervous tissues, and this is what is known as the bundle of His. Bundle of His, capital H-I-S, bundle of His. Now this bundle of His again bifurcates and divides into a nervous network which spreads over the entire wall of the ventricle in a fibrous root-like arrangement, and this is what is known as the Purkinje fibers. I've mentioned 4 words. Remember all these. I said first of all, which part, from where does the force of contraction, yesterday also I was talking about the systole and the diastole. So from where does the contraction of the heart initiate? Always from the right auricular wall. So what is their specialized tissue on the right auricular wall? The SAN. What is its full form? The sinoauricular node. So first of all, the full form of this has to be known. SAN. What is the full form of SAN? Sinoauricular node. And then from the right auricle, the impulses for contraction spreads over the auricles and immediately is sent to this particular region, a junction of the auricle and the ventricle. And what is this region known as? The AV node. What is AV node? The atrioventricular node, AVN. What is AVN? The atrioventricular node. What is it? This is the center which will spread, receives the impulses from the SAN and then spreads over the ventricular region also. The ventricular region is bigger than the auricular part. So the set of nerves which runs over the septum, what is that known as? The bundle of His. The bundle of His. I think you have got a figure there, no, in your textbook. You have a figure there in your textbook regarding this. Check figure 8.9. 8.9 in the old book. What is it? 8.9. Take that figure, all of it. Take that figure. 8.9. Now that particular figure, if you check there and mark all these words, the AVN. What is the location of the AVN at the junction of the auricle ventricle, and then the bundle of His over the septum, the interventricular septum, and then the Purkinje fibers. Where are the Purkinje fibers? From where are the Purkinje fibers formed? From the bundle of His. Where does the Purkinje fibers spread out? They spread out on the ventricular wall and bring about the contraction. Now, out of the right and the left ventricle, which ventricle contracts more vigorously and why? Left ventricle contracts more vigorously. Why?
Because it needs to pump blood to the
They need to pump the oxygenated blood to the rest of the body parts. Where is the force of contraction the maximum?
The maximum in the left ventricle.
In the apex of the heart. The apex of the heart, and that is also related to the maximum force of contraction of the left ventricle. Yesterday, I think we had written 1 or 2 questions mentioning that why the wall of the left ventricle is thickest. So the answer should be very clearly known. The wall of the left ventricle is thickest because the force of contraction is maximum. To resist that pressure, the wall has to be thick. Why there is septum present? Now this is a very simple diagram to talk about the structure of the heart. And now you see there is septum. Can you see there is septum between the auricles also? There is septum between the auricle and the ventricle also. And there is septum between the ventricles also. Meaning the entire 4-chambered heart that we are talking about, is it possible that the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood ever mix? Not at all. Why? Because there is septum all over, separating all the four chambers, so the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood never come together. What is the significance we enjoy? We have got four-chambered heart, where all the chambers are absolutely separate, the right and the left side absolutely separate. But what is the benefit we are enjoying for this? Not happening. And then what is the benefit? Who can tell me? Can you understand? Can you understand the relation? What is the benefit? There is no mixing of the blood. If there is no mixing of the blood, then what is the benefit we enjoy?
Maximum efficiency of the blood because the entire contains oxygenated blood.
From where to where?
The heart to the body parts.
The heart to the body parts. From which chamber? The left ventricle. Ultimately, our focus is on the part of the heart which is giving blood to the body parts. So, which is that part of the heart giving blood to the body parts? Left ventricle. Is the blood of the left ventricle ever mixed with the deoxygenated? Never. So, this blood has got a huge amount of oxygen supplying blood to the body parts.
So, what is the disadvantage of three-chambered heart?
Three-chambered heart, if I talk about the frogs and all, this septum is partially formed. They have got septum only till here. So when this blood enter, there is enough mixing. So this partially deoxygenated blood is going to the body tissues. They don't have adequate amount of oxygen supply and not enough amount of energy release. For us, what? A small amount of blood also going to the tissues can provide a huge amount of energy because the oxygen content is so much. So for us, this blood, see now, for a frog, what's happening? A huge amount of blood goes to the body. Then also the amount of energy release is lesser than us. For us, comparatively, a lesser amount of blood is going to the body, but the energy release is much more. Why? Because the energy is based on how much oxygen our blood provides. So that is one concept. I have been talking about a difference between these two words. For abbreviation, very, very important. Please take a note, mark in your book. SAN, AVN, you should know for abbreviations and its functions. Did you all see where it is there in the text? And the figure that I had asked you to mark. Now, apart from that, let us look into these figures. These figures are very, very common for your questions. We always give these questions in the paper. See figure 8.8 now. Are you able to read these figures? Keep answering the questions. Look into those figures. I had already discussed this, but let us again go through a little bit. So now that we are talking about the concept of the circulation, the concept.
So in short, the nerve impulse is generated at SAN.
The nerve impulses
is generated at SAN. Then it travels to AVN, then bundle of phase, and then
okay,
we can also see part by part.
But we are saying it part by part. It sounds acha, ek ke baad ek, but it is happening almost less 0.8 seconds mein entire process is over. So it is much lesser than a minute mein the entire process is getting over. So we will talk about the concept of cardiac cycle also now. But before that, let us look into this figure, figure 8.8. Dekho, all of you should be very clear about this. Figure 8.8. In the first figure, if you see, no, the figure I want you to look into those two figures. Diastole and systole I had explained you otherwise. But look into these two figures and try answering all the variable questions which are set on this. Now look into the first figure. Look into the first figure. If you look into the first figure, what are the parts 2 and 4? Just follow the diagram. 2 and 4. What are the parts 2 and 4?
Left ventricle and
2 is left ventricle and 4 is aorta. 2 and 4. What type of blood is moving away by the pulmonary artery? Very clear. That is the type of blood which is moving away is the deoxygenated blood. Now, if you see that figure, the valve number 3. What is valve number 3? Valve number 3. Valve number 3 is what? Valve number 3? Pulmonary semilunar. Pulmonary semilunar valve. So here actually 4 valves are mentioned. I had asked you 4 and 2 about the location, but there are 4 valves actually mentioned there. Now here valve number 3 prevents the backflow of the blood from pulmonary artery to right ventricle. Which chambers are contracting here? If you look into the first figure, figure A, which Which chambers are contracting? Which chambers are under systole?
In A, right
In
atrium, right atrium and left atrium.
Atrium. The auricles are contracting. Can you see the ventricles are bloated up here shown? The ventricles are bloated up here shown. So which chambers are contracting? The auricles are contracting, and that's the reason the ventricles are bloated up there. The ventricles are under diastole. So when the ventricles are diastole, the blood from the left ventricle will enter into aorta. Aorta. Look at the second figure now. Which chambers are contracting? Very evident. It is the ventricles which are contracting. So when the ventricles are contracting, the blood is pushed majorly to which parts of the body?
Lungs and other parts.
All parts of the body, from the right side to the lungs and from the left side to all the other parts of the body. So the blood is moving. What is the function of this valve 4 now? What is the function of the valve 4 in the second figure? Please look at that figure now. What is the function of the valve 4? What is valve 4? You know now. This is aortic semiluna. What is the function? Left ventricle. So all these questions. And when is the lub sound happening? Lub and dub. Yesterday we discussed lub and dub. So if I talk about the lub sound, is because of which valves? Tell me numbers there. In numbers, when you talk about for figure B, we understand lub sound. Figure B. So which valves responsible for lub? 1 and 2. Which valves for dub? 3 and 4. Which valves for lub? 1 and 2. Check in the figure. And 3 and 4. So study this diagram. Every part you should be very clear. Systole, diastole, everything should be clear. Questions on this?
Are papillary muscles present in the atrium?
No.
Only in the ventricle.
Because the valves are this way.
So they hold the valve.
So the tip of the valve is always attached with the apex of the papillary muscles. And then this muscular strands, when they contract, the valves are opening. When they relax, the valves are closed.
Is it similar to how we get goosebumps we had last year?
Piloerection. Not exactly. Piloerection, when we are talking about the muscles and then those Malpighian papillae there. So they are pulling, but here we are talking about the chordae tendineae, which plays a major role here. So if in case anybody is hurt, the chordae tendineae are all broken, then the valve regulation becomes difficult and this person will have some problems with the flow of the blood in the heart. But with piloerection, since in our skin there are so much of those glands and the Malpighi is all over. So even if in certain regions they are broken, also not much of a problem at all actually. Okay, so this part is very, very important. I want you to complete that small set of questions now before we move on to cardiac cycle. We'll move on to a few more topics left. The heartbeat, cardiac cycle, all this we have to complete. Now before that, go to another set of questions. Now you should be able to answer this. Go to the E structure type. Let us take part by part. E structure type number 2.
Ma'am, what is the function of the atrium?
It spreads the impulses for contraction all over the ventricular wall. AVN. Here. E sub number 2 and 3. E application type. Sub number 2 and 3 and 4 also now you should be able to do. Acha, in your book it is 2, no? So then it should be 3 there. 3 dekho.
The diagram of circulation.
This is your new book. So that should be go to now. That is 1 we have done, 2 we have done. Take number 3, number 4, number 5. Take. I'll show you this. 2, 3, no, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Questions are same, some additions. Come on, complete now fast. AVN. Spreads nervous impulse throughout the ventricular wall. throughout the ventricle. Karo, fatafat, fast. We'll have to complete this chapter today. Few question answers left and few more topics. Let us complete this. Now, E sub number 3, 4, 5. Fatafat. All of you with your pencils, start writing down the answers in your book. Write with pencils. If there's anything, we can correct later. Give me one pencil. Do you have one pencil? Extra? नहीं है. Extra pencil है?
हाँ, but I will do small.
नहीं है. Thank you.
भाई ऊपर रहता है ये करेक्ट है ऊपर रहेगा वो करेक्ट है बट इसमें इधर ऐसे टाइम हार्ड
Okay, now that you do number 2, for that let us check one more concept here. That is the hepatic portal system. Okay, you check this first, let us discuss this, then you'll be able to do this much better. We are talking about the hepatic portal system, so to understand this, let us check this figure. Hepatic portal system, what are the arteries and veins associated? So far in the entire concept, just look into this, because there in question number 3 there are the concepts of hepatic portal system also there. Now, whenever we were talking about that every particular, if you remember when we were talking about this body parts, from the body parts what did we see? The body parts giving rise to capillaries, giving rise to veins, forming the veins, and the veins would straight away go and meet, form the vena cava. But whenever we are talking about body parts like the stomach and the intestine, they follow different, a specific rule. Now what is this rule? All of you see here, I am talking about the artery. Now this is an artery which is a branch of the aorta, already understood. This is an artery branch of the aorta. This aorta will carry, this branch will carry oxygenated blood. This oxygenated blood is going through organs, all the body organs, but specifically we are talking about the stomach and the intestine. Now that it goes through the stomach, provides the oxygenated blood, and the veins coming out from the stomach is loaded with absorbed nutrients. The veins coming out from the intestine also is loaded with nutrients. So they directly will not go and join with the vena cava. But what happens to this? They will, first of all, if I talk about these veins, now the veins coming out from the intestine, all these veins. The veins coming out from the stomach region, all these veins, what will happen? these veins from the stomach and the intestine, they will meet together and form a common vein, and that common vein is known as the portal vein. Portal vein. So what is that portal vein? The veins coming out from the stomach, the veins coming out from the intestine, they will merge together, fuse together, form the portal vein, and now that they are entering the liver, they are merging with the hepatic vein. Now they are known as the hepatic portal veins. So now when we are talking about for the rest of the body, I talk about except for the stomach and the intestine. What about the muscles? What about the bones? What about the pancreas? What about the rest of the body? A vein coming out from the body part go form vena cava. Unite, go form vena cava. But for the veins coming out from the stomach and the intestine, they will straight away not go join from the vena cava, but they will go via the liver. Why they will go via the liver? Because the veins coming from here, of course, deoxygenated blood, but then the blood is loaded with nutrients, a whole lot of amino acids and glucose and fatty acids and glycerol all loaded. So all these substances has to be deposited in the liver first. Then the hepatic veins will, the common hepatic veins will go and merge with the vena cava. Then which vena cava now? The inferior vena cava. We are talking about the parts of the body below the heart. So definitely the one which is coming up, leaving the liver, the hepatic vein, that will go and merge with the inferior vena cava. So what is the schematic blood flow here now specifically? The stomach and the intestine, they are receiving blood by the way of the gastric artery. And here we are talking about the mesenteric artery. I think in your book also the names are there. The gastric, mesenteric, which are part of the renal, which are part of the aorta. Now from this, the veins coming up. The gastric veins, the mesenteric veins. So this gastric and the mesenteric veins, they will first unite. Unite to form what? The portal. They will unite to form first the portal vein. Then they move towards the liver. Now hepatic portal vein. Then they break up into capillaries. Then they break up into capillaries, providing the nutrients and exchange and everything happening. Then those capillaries will again unite and come out as portal vein. Understanding? So now, if we have to understand what is the blood flow for any type of body part and what is the difference with reference to the hepatic portal system. For the hepatic portal system, if I think of the aorta will give rise to major arteries. Which are the major arteries we think of? The gastric artery for the stomach and the intestine, the mesenteric arteries for the intestine. Now the blood, both oxygenated. This blood now goes to the respective organs. Which are the respective organs? The stomach. Here the respective organ is the intestine. But now these are specific organs. Definitely the tissues and the organs now that we are talking about. The blood which is coming out from this in the form of capillaries, if I think of, because first of all the capillaries are the blood vessels coming out from an organ. So this capillaries and this capillaries will now unite to form what type of veins? I would understand the gastric vein now. This gastric vein, and now what? This is the mesenteric vein. This gastric and the mesenteric vein, they will unite, they will merge together now. They merge together, resulting in the formation of what? They will merge together, resulting in the formation of the portal vein. Resulting in the formation of the portal vein. This portal vein, as it is moving towards the liver, it now enters into the liver. As it enters into the liver, now it is known as the hepatic portal vein. So this hepatic portal vein, where is it entering? It is entering into the liver. And from the liver, Now what is the relation with the heart? From the liver, I would say, now that the veins coming out, what are these veins known as? These are now known as the hepatic vein. These veins are the hepatic veins. Where will these hepatic veins go and join? They now will go and join with the other veins of the body. And will go and join with which vena cava but? They will go and join forming vena cava, but this has to be only the inferior vena cava and back to the heart again. If this schematic flow we are talking about, this is what is hepatic portal system. So name one vessel which starts as capillaries and again ends as capillaries. Which is that vessel we are talking about? A vessel which starts as capillaries and ends as capillaries. That is the portal vein. Vessel which starts also as capillaries, a number of them joining together to form this broad, and then again it will end up into capillaries, enter into the liver. What is the significance, you are asked? What is the significance? To deposit all the nutrients, absorbed nutrients, which is fatty acids, glycerol, so many. So whatever nutrients are there here, definitely deoxygenated, but nutrients also there, that has to be loaded down, deposited in the liver. That is the job. Okay, so all of you take a note of this diagram on, this is there. Now you should be, see the figure 8.5, the diagram is there. You should be very clear, the entire concept is marked there also very nicely, and these words and the names and the flow of the blood, you should be very clear. Figure 8.15, double circulation but through the liver.
If a question comes like, the veins will start with capillaries and end with capillaries.
Portal
It is
vein.
hepatic portal or only?
No, always portal vein.
I guess what portal vein is not. Renal portal vein is there in some areas.
There, but here we are talking about only with reference to the, not the kidney. We are studying only with reference to the liver.
But do we have renal portal vein?
Renal portal we have, the renal portal vein, but then the specifically this portal vein with reference to the liver is only here in the concept right now. So there is no confusion. There will be no question asked about the renal system at all here.
But we have.
In our body we have.
Why was it not there in excretory?
For excretory we have only learnt about the nephron majorly. In your syllabus it is emphasizing only on the nephron part. Okay, now you should be able to answer this question 3, 4, 5. Complete karo fast. Done. All of you have to complete this answer. Then we move on to cardiac cycle. Ansh kiya? Done? Complete karo. The new book has few more questions. Check karo. Those of you are using the old book. Paper book you ऐसे notebook.
I didn't give it up.
ये पेपर थोड़ी है
हाँ चलें
फास्ट कंप्लीट करो क्वेश्चंस हाँ what happened?
That's mesenteric.
Mesenteric, mesenteric, mesenteric. अंश हो गया ये ट्राई करो बी ट्राई करो बी नंबर 1 वी आर डन बी नंबर 2 करो नंबर 2 and 3 मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स 3 हो गया नंबर 2 करो मोस्ट ऑफ द
एंड नंबर 2 भी कर दिया
concepts we are done
ब्लड कैंसर
नहीं
यस
ये number 2 and number 3 try करो all these parts are already done just few things to discuss check whether the answers you are able to Understand? जहाँ पे doubt है clarify करो.
From diabetes of
WBCs that we had done at the beginning of the chapter.
Ma'am,
याद है? What was diabetes? What was diabetes? Squeezing of WBCs through the walls of capillaries, through the capillary wall. What is the difference between phagocytosis and diabetes? Difference between phagocytosis and diabetes?
phagocytosis is the
Engulfing of the bacteria at the site of injury. Diabetes is squeezing out of the WBC, changing its shape through the capillary wall.
And then we can also put another point that phagocytosis is mainly practiced by neutrophils, while the other
Neutrophils and monocytes.
monocytes, and the other diabetes is done by all the
Types of diabetes. Diabetes is also by neutrophils and monocytes.
It's a different.
Diabetes is not by lymphocytes and all these cells, basophils, eosinophils. Diabetes होने के बाद ही phagocytosis होगा. By the process of diabetes only it is going to the site of infection, तभी जाके phagocytic होगा. Clear है? If that is done, number 3, all of you got the answers?
Yes.
Achha, look into the diagram for number 3. Look into the diagram for number 3. All these parts, some only they have asked, all they have not asked also. Okay, let me start from number 3. What is number 3? Heart. Vessel 1,
Coronary artery.
vessel 4.
Coronary vein.
So part 2 is lungs. What is vessel 5? Vessel 5, vessel 6, hepatic artery, and vessel 6 के बाद liver से you get to see one blood vessel emerging out. तो वो vessel क्या होगा? Vein, and then one upward vessel going and meeting the heart. What is that vessel? Inferior vena cava. यहाँ पे अभी दिया नहीं है number, but you may get those in your exam also. Achha, now go to vessel 9. What is vessel 9? Superior vena cava. What is part 10? Stomach. Part 10, stomach. Liver, stomach, intestine. And vessel 7? Vessel 7 is?
From the intestine and stomach to the liver.
Should be portal vein. Portal vein is the vessel which is formed, the vein which is formed by the union of the veins coming from the stomach and the veins coming from the intestine and merging. So, ये हो गया portal vein. Now, this portal vein again divides into capillaries, fine capillaries, and it starts merging with the ones in the liver. At that time, those vessels will be known as hepatic portal because it has already entered into the liver now. But before entering into the liver, it is portal. At the surface of the liver, hepatic portal. Coming out of the liver,
Coming out of the liver, hepatic
vein. Should be portal. Let me just check what is given in your book also. Should be portal.
किसी के पास नहीं तेरे ना कुछ चलता है बट वेरिएंट्स चलिए
So in your book they are marking it as hepatic portal. Hepatic portal is what is marked in your book also, but the before hepatic portal it should be portal, but portal is not marked in that diagram. So we'll have to consider this vessel, that is 7, as hepatic portal vein. What about the vessel which is entering the kidney? Renal artery. 9. I'm sorry, 8. Renal vein. Okay, so number 2. 9 is not there. Is there 9?
No,
9
9
we have done. 9 we have done. Let us go to number 3. Number 3 में doubt है कुछ?
No.
Number C, if I see 3 sub number C, 2 structural differences between A and B. 2 structural differences between A and B. So A and B very clear. A है artery, B है vein. So structural differences you can write on what? On the lumen, on the wall, on the valves. Structural difference you can write on these major points. Functional difference,
That flow.
only the direction of the blood flow you get questions. Structural difference so hai hi in this question, and the nature of the blood flow. These are the common questions that you get.
Spurts and smooth.
The nature of circulation, the nature of the circle. For the vein it is
Smooth.
and for the artery it is in jerks, in spurts, in jerks it is. So that you'll have to remember. Number E, I hope you know the answer. Now let us go to number 5. Number 5, what should you write for the phase? Phase systole, ventricular systole. Then how do you suppose? Name the phase. Ventricular systole is major. So if you are mentioning ventricular systole also correct, you will get marked majorly for that because that is prominent in the figure. And auricular diastole also too, right? Number B, how do you support this answer?
the valve.
Because during ventricular systole, which valves are supposed to open, close? That much has to be written.
If I've written only closed.
नहीं, open तो लिखना ही है because how is the blood flowing out? Ventricular systole, the semilunar valves are open, atrioventricular valves are closed. C and D you should be knowing now how many valves are closed in this phase. That is also very clear. How many valves are closed in this? That is also very clear. Then now let us take some few more things. Now that we are talking about the concept of double circulation, the systole, the diastole, and then the pacemaker, the heart sounds, heartbeat. When we are talking about the concept of heartbeat, if you want to understand here, the concept of heartbeat. Let us just look into this particular concept, the heartbeat. Heartbeat, the entire cycle, what we had studied just now, the concept of double circulation that we had studied just now. The concept of double circulation is generally talking about part by part, how does the blood flow. Now talking about the prominent events, what are the prominent events? Number 1, auricular. Bolo.
Question.
कौन सा?
6th question. What's the name of the first? The marking of one.
6th question, मतलब which one it is?
7th, I guess.
Wait, fifth in our book.
In the old book it is 5th, no?
Yes.
Meaning 4th.
The first marking.
The diabetes is 1.
Yeah.
The diabetes, okay. Name the cell labeled 1. Cell labeled 1 is RBC. See, biconcave it is very clear. Clear है ना?
We are bit circular, right?
नहीं, वो dumbbell shaped है ही देखो. RBCs are known to be dumbbell shaped. RBCs are known to be biconcave. तो इसमें दिख रहा है. It is biconcave shape.
And then the white color thing is platelets.
That is
Yellow.
those are the platelets marked. The orange part is the plasma there, and then the WBC very clear. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the cardiac cycle now. What are the events of cardiac cycle? What is heartbeat? What is pulse? So now, when we are talking about this, what are the major events? Auricular. If I start with the concept of cardiac cycle, first is auricular diastole, followed by ventricular. Auricular diastole, meaning ventricular systole. Then if auricular systole, then ventricular diastole. So this is always alternate. So what are the prominent phases? The prominent phases are auricular systole, ventricular diastole, and joint diastole. These are the three main stages we always consider. What are we studying? We are talking about cardiac cycle. What is cardiac cycle? The entire events of the heart. We have studied part by part so much in detail that one by one, how does the blood flow? Now, we more or less, if we try to summarize, what is the major concept? The major concept is, what are the major events in the entire process of pumping of the blood from the heart going to the body? For that, the auricular systole, the ventricular diastole, and then the joint systole. Joint systole means what? A short period of time when the upper and the lower chambers both are in the relaxed state. So look into this that yellow table is there, small yellow table along with the time periods. Roughly you'll have to remember for MCQ, even the time period we give as questions. So see there the systole. So first is the systole of auricular systole, followed by ventricular systole, and then joint diastole. What are the time period? 0.15 second, 0.30 and 0.40 seconds. Cumulative of what? 0.83 seconds roughly. Write down there 0.83 to 85 seconds. So what are the three major phases to understand whenever we are talking about the concept of cardiac cycle? How long does it take? In 0.85 seconds. And what are the prominent phases? The prominent phases will be the contraction of the auricle. So we will write systole. Contraction of the ventricle. So we will write ventricular systole. And a very short period of time when simultaneously both the chambers are filling blood. So we will write joint diastole. So these three phases happen almost back to back each other and complete the entire process of filling blood, giving out.
Third one is joint diastole.
Diastole.
So all the veins, all the valves are closed.
Joint diastole meaning at that time the blood is filling up, the atrioventricular is open slightly, the semilunar is closed at that time. So now when we are talking about auricular systole, see the figures, you are always given diagrams, identification, and then questions. So the chambers, how will the chambers look like? The upper chamber, when you have to mark it as auricular systole. Then ventricular systole, how should the figure be? Ventricular systole, you should be able to understand ventricular systole. And joint diastolar condition, here we get to see that the auricle also a little bit inflated, the ventricles also a little bit inflated. There is no remarkable constriction in any of the chambers now. So three major phases and then the process of circulation. Now if this is cardiac cycle, how do you define? What is cardiac cycle? The entire events of a heartbeat. What are the events of a heartbeat? What are the three major events of a heartbeat? Auricular systole, ventricular systole, joint diastole. Then what is heartbeat? Heartbeat is the number of times when we are talking about the left ventricle contracts to give away blood to the body. That is actually heartbeat. So when we are talking about how many times does the heart beat in a normal healthy individual per minute? 72 to 75 times. So generally when we are talking about the heartbeat, how many number of times? Heartbeat. How many number of times per minute the left ventricle is contracting and throwing the blood into the aorta and the rest of the body? Almost 72 times per minute. So number of times the left ventricle contracts. So majorly we are only talking about the left ventricle. Number of times the left ventricle contracts to push the blood, throw the blood into the aorta to reach the body parts, that is the heartbeat. Average number 72 times per minute. But definitely, now we go by the textbook, but then when we are talking about in today's lifestyle, 72 to 80 also is generally considered to be normal. 80 beats per minute, normal, but anything above 80, 85, 100, 150 is something to be worried about. But does our heartbeat increase at times?
Yeah.
When?
When we are
Vigorous muscular activity. Whenever you are running, whenever you are tense, whenever you are worried at that time also, the heartbeat will increase. Not necessarily every time we have to run or jog or swim to increase our heartbeat. So any type of an emotional changes in our body, we are stressed, we are anxious, we are scared, at that time also the heartbeat. But are we to understand that that increase is something related to an abnormality or a diseased condition? No, if this heartbeat normally settles down, normally comes back or settles down to that something to 72 to 75 in a minute when we are resting, it is normal. Then what can be the conditions when the heartbeat is persistently high? And a heartbeat also related to another concept that we talk about as pulse. Pulse. Then what is pulse? Now that I said heartbeat means what? Every time that the blood from the left ventricle is thrown into the aorta and the blood rushes in the arteries. Are we able to sense that? Yes. If you put your fingertips on your neck region, you can feel those ticks. You can feel those ticks here. So there are some few regions of our body, if you just tap your fingers, you can feel those ticks. And every single tick means the left ventricle is contracting and the force of contraction is quite big, and that's the reason we are able to understand that. Whenever we have tremendous headache and all, if you touch this part also, you will be able to sense those ticks. Very, very prominent. So now when we are talking about this, what does this indicate? How many times? Are you able to understand? Those ticks indicate how many times the left ventricle contracts, throws the blood into the arteries, and the blood is rushing into the artery. Now that the blood is rushing into the artery, the arterial wall will involuntary, there will be an involuntary movement in that entire arterial wall. The arterial wall will automatically, involuntarily expand and relax, expand and relax, expand and relax. And this involuntary expansion and recoiling back, meaning contraction back, expansion and recoiling back of the entire artery, the arterial wall when the blood is flowing, that is what is known as pulse. What is the definition you write? What is pulse? The expansion and recoil of the wall of the arteries during ventricular contraction. So every time that the ventricle contracts and the blood flows in the aorta followed by all these arteries, what will happen? The arterial wall will expand and recoil, expand and recoil, expand and recoil, and that is what we are talking about as pulse. Pulse and heartbeat, almost the same thing that we are talking about, but in two different aspects. We are talking about one, how the arterial wall expands and recoils, and the other we are talking about how many number of times the left ventricle contracts. Ultimately, the concept is the same. So the heartbeat, the sound, and all these you'll have to remember. Now, again going back to the overall differences of the arteries and the veins and the capillaries, check there. There's a table 8.3. There's a table 8.3, and all these you'll have to remember. Significance of hepatic portal system. Please remember those points. Let us talk about this. First of all, I want all of you to go through these points they already discussed. Now go through all these points and let us now summarize at least major 7-8 differences between the artery and the vein. Differences. Now this table we will read again and again. We had discussed all these points, but let me just summarize again the major 8 differences. Artery, vein. There are some similarities also, but now the major differences. Number 1, what is the first difference, artery and vein? The wall. For the artery, the wall is thick. Vein, the wall is thin. In case of the artery, the muscular layer, the second layer, that is the muscular layer, is well formed. What is the composition of the second layer? Composition of the second layer, yesterday we
Muscular, so connective tissue.
and connective tissue and muscle fibers. So that second layer is prominent in the artery and less prominent in the less well formed in the vein. Third, I talk about in the artery, the blood flows at a very high pressure because the blood is pushed out from the heart. In the vein, the blood flows at a lower pressure because the blood is being drained out from the body parts. Number 4, since the blood is flowing at a very high pressure, there is no need of a valve in the artery. The blood will, as it is, rush from the heart and reach the furthest point also in a few seconds. But in case of the vein, since the blood is moving from the lower parts of the body majorly to rise up and reach the heart, so for most of the blood vessels, the veins, the blood is moving against the gravity. So inherently we have got the valves present which can from time to time block whatever amount of blood has moved up and preventing the backflow. Number 5, the lumen of the artery is narrow, lumen of the vein is broad. That is also one factor why the pressure high and low. Number 6, the color of the blood. What is the color of the blood in an artery? Light red. Color of the blood in a vein? Dark red. Reason? Blood in an artery is oxygenated. Blood in a vein is deoxygenated. Position. The arteries, they always are present deep seated. We are not able to see those arteries and capillaries in our body. But the veins we are able to see. The veins we can see very easily because most of the veins are superficially present. Arteries divide to form arterioles and veins are formed by the union of venules. Veins are formed by the union of venules. So when we are now talking about all these structural, functional differences, the direction of the blood flow, all these points more or less to remember. Now look into the table there. We had already talked about the difference between pulmonary, systemic circulation. What was it? Pulmonary circulation, what did I say? How will you define? Difference you get in the paper, pulmonary and systemic circulation, flow of the blood. Now that time you don't have to write all these. How will you summarize? Pulmonary circulation, what it is?
Blood flows from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery.
Like from the right ventricle to the lungs and back to the left auricle. So right ventricle से left auricle तक का जो journey है blood का, that is what is pulmonary. तो systemic क्या लिखेंगे? From the left ventricle, aorta to the body parts. So left ventricle, aorta, body parts and back to the right auricle. मतलब heart से निकल के heart तक आना है. That is your complete answer. What is pulmonary circulation? The circulation of blood from the right ventricle to the lungs and back to the left auricle is pulmonary. Systemic, from the left ventricle by the way of the aorta to the body parts and back again into the right auricle by vena cava, that is systemic. Clear hai? So don't write half answer. Not to write half answer, complete लिखना है in the entire concept of pulmonary and systemic. कहाँ से शुरू, कहाँ से कहाँ पे खत्म होता, the entire thing you have to always write. Now hepatic portal system we were talking about just now. Utility, significance क्या है of the hepatic portal system? Please mark all those things. Number 1 is glucogenesis. We have been saying that the entire process of blood flow, when we are talking about the blood flow in the veins related with the stomach and the intestine, how is it different than the rest part of the body? Because the blood coming from the stomach, intestine loaded with nutrients, and what is happening to the glucose? Underline the word glucogenesis. What is happening? The glucose, extra glucose will be deposited in the liver. This you have studied earlier also. Surplus glucose converted to glycogen. Where is it taking place? Liver. Isko bolenge glucogenesis. Glycogenesis, underline that word. Glycogenesis. What is glycogenesis? Genesis means formation. Glycogen formation from the surplus of glucose. Deamination. What is deamination? The amino acids, which is now getting deposited in the liver, the amino acids start getting broken down to form some other compounds. In that process, urea formed. The urea is formed in the liver, deamination. This names of the processes you'll have to remember. See there, the urea, uric acid are formed, and the glycogen is already stored. The last one is detoxification. When we are talking about a large number of harmful poisonous chemical substances, do you remember the role of the SER that you have studied? SER याद है? SER क्या था? RER, SER क्या था?
Smooth endoplasmic reticulum and appendicle.
The smooth endoplasmic reticulum. In the liver also, now that the blood is entering the liver, the portal system, if I think of, entering the liver with a whole lot of toxic chemical substances also. So in the liver, with the help of the SER, the blood is becoming less toxic also by the breaking down of all those poisonous substances. So इस process को बोलेंगे detoxification. So the blood which is entering the liver is toxic. Toxic not in the terms of toxicity of the kidney, वो थोड़ा अलग concept है. Here I am saying the liver also plays an important role of making the blood less toxic. So which blood is less toxic? The hepatic vein or the hepatic artery?
Hepatic
vein. Hepatic vein, the blood of the hepatic vein is less toxic क्योंकि liver में detoxification होता है. Please take all these three words. Deamination पे तो question आता ही है. Deamination is a concept you are always asked in the paper. What is deamination? Where does it take place? Amino acid breaking down in the process urea form taking place in the liver is a concept of deamination. Take a break. We'll continue again a little bit more after the break. This was this.
What is the grounds of
भैया